Jeremy TV.
Hey, Jeremy here, and I'm coming at you on a warm, windy day in late November here in southern Oklahoma. I've got the afternoon off from work, so I decided I'm going to do a quick review of the gate opener that we have and have had for almost a year now. We recently installed a keypad on the inside of the gate, similar to the one we already had on the outside. My dad helped me with all of those projects when we installed the gate opener and the keypad on the outside, and then again a couple weeks ago when we did the keypad on the inside. So I'm going to tell you the pros and cons, the things I like about it, the things I don't, and try to give you as good information as possible on this gate opener, in addition to showing you the project that my dad and I did when we put this keypad on the inside of the gate. Now, it's not really a lot to it. It was digging a hole, putting the post in to the predetermined depth, concreting it in, and getting it level, programming the keypad, and it was done. We recorded that, like I said, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it was a very windy day. I'm probably going to set that part to music and speed it up a little bit. It's also very windy today, but I'm using a little bit better microphone. That day it was so windy the camera blew over 2 or 3 times. But when we initially installed the opener and that outside keypad, it was cold and rainy, and I had just started the YouTube channel. I hadn't actually released any videos yet, but we were really trying to get it done quickly rather than document things, so I didn't get that videoed, so I don't have that to show you. But we did do the keypad. We documented that a couple weeks ago, and I want to give you as good a rundown on that gate opener as I can today. Okay, so my review today is of the Mighty Mule MM360 gate opener. Now, I purchased mine from Tractor Supply Company, and I was able to buy the opener and the solar charger kit in the store. It also came with the remote control, and there are a couple of options on remotes, but the remote keypad that you see out there is a kit that includes the keypad itself and the mounting arm on which the keypad mounts, and that also goes down into the ground, into the concrete. Now that kit was not available in the stores. I believe it is an online only item, at least it was for my store. So I had to order it online and then pick it up in the store after they delivered it. So I had to do it for that one and for that one that's on the inside now. I will say, just to summarize it up front, if you're just interested in a very quick impression of this gate opener, overall I am happy with it. I'm very happy with it. I have read pretty good reviews for the most part online of this gate opener. Some bad, but some really good. Most were good reviews of the opener. And I based part of my decision on that. Also on the ease of purchase, which it was readily available through both the store and online, and the ease of buying accessories for that, which are available again both in the store and online only. Now in my particular setup, so in the MM360, this is the opener arm. So it's the opener with the arm, the mounting hardware here for the gate, the mounting hardware here for the post, that came with the opener. The solar kit right here, which includes the arm and the 10-watt solar panel, was purchased separately, and it was pretty expensive. I think it was around $100 for that solar kit. Now there were two options for this opener, and I believe for all openers there's a 5-watt option and a 10-watt option on the solar charger. I went ahead and opted for the bigger one. I don't know if I went way overkill on that or if that was a good idea. I suspect that given the number of cloudy days in the winter, that the bigger surface area you can have for a solar charger, the better. And so far I have not had any issues with my battery lagging or running dead, and I have heard of some people having that issue. Now I will say the battery case that's sitting in was purchased separately. It's not part of the kit. It's not even offered by Mighty Mule. They may offer one, but I didn't buy it from them. This mounting hardware, this mounting surface and this hardware, my dad fabricated that himself and brought it with him. So that did not come with anything. That was not even available. I believe the battery that's available through Mighty Mule is a very small battery, and I have read some reviews that the people who use those smaller batteries had some issues with them running out of juice. I went ahead and bought a lawnmower battery for mine, and I'm not even going to take it out and show you. It's just a lawnmower battery. It's not nearly even the size of this case. The case is bigger than I needed, but I wanted to have room in case I ever did go to a bigger battery. So I'm not going to undo that case. I'm not going to take that strap loose and all that stuff, but it's a lawnmower battery inside there, and then those leads run inside there. They come off the solar charger, so a wire runs to the charger, trickle charges the battery, and then it's run through the computer board, which is actually contained in this part of the opener. Some of the bigger openers have a separate unit that runs the controller. Most of the smaller ones, like the MM360 here, have a self-contained controller built inside the arm. So actually underneath you have some screws and the on-off switch. Those screws allow you access to the opener and to some of the programming functions that are available. One of the functions that's available is, do you want it to pull to open or push to open? That's going to depend on your configuration and where you mount the opener. Mine, as you can see, my gate is closed right now, so that arm is fully extended or close to fully extended. So in order to open my gate, it has to pull to open. So that opener has to pull to open my gate and then push it back out to the fully extended position in order to close the gate back. That is the default setting, if I'm not mistaken. You can switch it to the other way. So if you've got a configuration that's different from this, where you would need to push the gate to open it, then that would work as well, and you just have to tell the controller to do that. The keypads that you see out there control the opener remotely, so they are not wired in. There is an option for you to purchase a keypad that does wire in. There are some other accessories that wire in, and they of course would all come back and wire into this controller. Now this part of the opener is it's an antenna module, and you can see there's the actual antenna for the opener. So that is the little antenna booster, I guess, and that's the antenna wire. So the keypads on both the outside and the inside send radio frequency to that antenna, process through the controller, and command the gate to open or close. So that's a rundown of the system. When I purchased it, that's probably a lot more opener than I actually have to have. And I say that because Mighty Mule sizes their openers in two ways. They say that for a gate that is 16 feet long and up to 550 pounds, I believe, or 350 pounds, somewhere in that range, you would need the MM360. Now my gate is 16 feet long. However, it is nowhere near 350 pounds or even 550 pounds. That gate probably weighs, it's just a pipe pasture gate that I bought at a local metal supply place. And it's one of the old green gates, and you can see there the green's coming through because the black is peeling off. We painted it black, but it's, you know, it's just a pipe pasture gate. It's not terribly heavy, probably weighs 75 pounds at the most. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 100. I can't see it weighing 100. I'm thinking it's probably like 75 pounds. So even though the length, they recommended that opener, it was well under the maximum weight for that opener. But I like to follow the rules, and since they said that the MM360 was required for 16-foot gates and 350 or 550 pounds, whatever the weight was, I don't remember, I'm sorry, I forgot, then you would get the MM360. So I went ahead and got that one. It's probably way more gate opener than I need, but that's okay. I'd rather have too much than not enough. One thing I like about my installation is that they recommend you install it level, but you probably, I don't know if you can tell by the video, but mine is not level, so it actually slopes downhill from right to left. Now in some of the reviews I read where people had a bad experience with that gate opener, it was due to water collecting on this arm and then running back inside the unit, causing corrosion of those internal parts. And that was because the opener was not mounted level, but it was mounted actually running where the water could run back into the unit. So instead of being downhill like mine was, or even level, it was that mounted that way where water would run back into the unit, and that was causing some problems. I have not had a lick of trouble out of this opener yet. Now granted, it's not even a year old, but it has been through freezes, through rains, through storms, heavy wind, and I've not had any issues with it. I did have to turn up the resistance just a little bit after the first couple weeks we had it, because there were a couple of times when we opened the gate and the wind was blowing hard enough that it triggered the pushback feature, and then the gate would open back up and be held open when we got back home rather than closed like it's supposed to be. So I increased the resistance, and we've not had that problem since. Now I mentioned holding open versus closing on its own. That is another option that I really like about this opener. The default is that the gate opens when you punch the remote or the keypad. It holds open for a set time, which you can set. There's just a dial on the inside of the controller that you take a little screwdriver and dial it up to, I think, as long as maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and as little as like 15 or 20 seconds. I think it's about 45 seconds right now for my setting, which is about perfect. That gives you time if you've got a trailer or if you're driving a little slower. or if you have to just walk out and take the trash out, you can open it with a keypad, take the trash out, get it situated, walk back through, and not have to reopen the gate. It's already held open, and by the time you come through, then it starts to close, and it works out pretty perfectly. So that's the perfect time for me. But the neat thing about it is it's adjustable. Now you can also choose to have it open and stay open until you punch the button or the keypad again, at which time the gate would then close. My dad prefers that setting. He put in a Mighty Mule gate opener of his own after he and I installed mine. He liked mine so much he wanted one. So he likes the setting where you punch it, it opens and stays open, and then you have to punch it to close it. I don't like that. I like it to automatically close. It's just easier for us that way in our setup. Now, I'll tell you some of the things I like about this. I've already told you a few things I like about it. It was not terrible to install. You do have to have a little bit of knowledge. Now, for example, one of the hard things, you have to, it depends on your setup, but we had to drill through this. This is some pretty hefty post. This is steel pipe, and it's pretty thick wall steel pipe. So we had to drill through it in 1, 2, let's see if I can get in there, 3, 4 places in order to mount that bracket. Now that's a heavy duty bracket there, and then so we drilled through that, mounted that, and that works great, and we've not had any problem out of it. If you can work a drill and you can put nuts on a bolt, then you should be able to install this. It wasn't bad for us, but I will admit that my dad is very, very handy at doing this kind of stuff. There's not much that he can't figure out. He was an electrician by trade and pretty much can figure anything out that he wants to. So it always makes me feel better to do a project when he's helping, because he's really good at this stuff, and I really lean back on him to help me with these kinds of things. But honestly, I feel like I could have installed this by myself. It may have just taken longer, but it was nice to have his help. This thing was pretty easy to install. We did drill some small holes for this, and then that just screws in there. But that's not very heavy. So you could probably even use like a U-bolt and clamp that down, and it would be fine, because that's not a heavy assembly at all. That may not even weigh 3 pounds. That solar panel's very light. That's aluminum tubing, so it's pretty light as well, and that won't be hard to mount. The battery box, I've seen them sitting on the ground, and I had actually planned to do mine that way initially until I could build something, but luckily my dad had some diamond plate and went ahead and just fabricated that little mount, and it's just a diamond plate and a little bit of angle underneath there, and he just made that little mount for it, and it's not terribly heavy. It's just a lawnmower battery and the little plastic battery box with it. That battery probably weighs 15 or 20 pounds, and that's about all the weight on that. So it doesn't, it's fabricated well. Won't ever have any problems with it. I mean, you can see it's a pretty solid setup, and we just used a big U-bolt on it to mount it, so we didn't have to screw another set of holes into that pipe. So the ease of installation was pretty good. That's one thing I liked about it. I like that it's clean looking. It's pretty well, it's concealed. It kind of sits behind that gate. You don't really see it. I think the solar panel, for as ugly as solar panels tend to be, that's a pretty good looking setup. The gate kit, or the keypad kit, is a really good looking kit, and that's why I went ahead and did the kit. You can buy the keypad for cheaper by itself, but with the kit it sends you that pole that's powder coated, and it looks real nice. It's got a nice bend in it, and it just looks more professional than something I could have made myself. So I went ahead and spent I think it was 110 or so for that kit, 115 maybe, and I've got 2 of them. So I went ahead and did the kit. That's another thing I like about it, is the ability to accessorize. Now I will say this, if you're thinking about a Mighty Mule gate opener, go online and find somewhere that's selling the kits with the parts that you'll need, with the accessories that you'll need. If you will plan ahead a little bit and think of your particular setup and the things that you might need, you can probably save money instead of piecemealing it like I did. Now all of the kit, even the most simple setup, is going to come with the opener and a single function remote. Now this single button remote will open it. So you press that button, it opens. You can get kits with the solar chargers, with the keypads, with the sensors that you can put on the inside. And I looked at the sensor for the inside versus having to do another keypad on the inside. First of all, I opted not to do the sensor because it was about $70 more than the keypad. Also, after I bought the keypad, I thought, you know, I'm down here with the tractor a lot. I'm bringing the lawnmower down here, and those things may trigger the gate to open back up. And I don't want that to happen. There's going to be times I work down here that I don't need out of the gate, and I don't want it opening and closing every time I drive a tractor or lawnmower by that sensor. So I think I made the perfect choice by putting the keypad on the inside rather than a sensor that would automatically open the gate back when a vehicle approached. Now you can turn the opener off, unpin it from that hinge bracket, and then just pull the gate back. And I have left our original T-post in the ground with the chain on it to chain back the gate if I'm going to be working in and out of the gate a lot. And that does happen when I'm mowing. If I've got the push mower and the weed eater up here, I may need in and out of that gate several times. So I just go ahead and open it, pin it back, and shut off the opener. No sense in unnecessarily draining the battery. So one of the things I like about the Mighty Mule that I also dislike, I guess, is the fact that you really have to plan. I didn't really plan well. I just bought the opener that came with a remote, and I think maybe that was all it came with. At any rate, I didn't plan well, and I have bought all of these accessories separately. Now that gets expensive because the gate opener itself, I'm thinking, was around $300 or $200. You know, I don't remember. One of the two, $200 or $300. Then you've got to buy a battery and a battery box. And that opener, that keypad was $110 or so. The other one was $110. The solar charger setup was $105 or $110. And any other kind of accessories you buy for it are just additional costs. So rather than getting into it for a couple $100 or $300 like you might be thinking, I mean, I'm probably into this deal $500 or $600 already. Now that's not necessarily a problem. I'm okay with that. I mean, it's money well spent in my opinion, because I'm not lazy, but on those days where it's cold and rainy or it's muddy out here and we're dressed up and I don't want to get out in the wet grass and the dirt and sloppy stuff, it's nice to be able to punch a button and open the gate. So I mean, I'm not a fancy person, but it is nice. It's a very nice addition, and I don't mind having spent the money on it. To me, there are wastes of money and there is money well spent. To me, this is money well spent. Now, in my setup, another accessory you can buy is a positive latch for this gap right here. You can see I have a concrete block that keeps the thing from swinging too far inward when the south wind is blowing. So that's facing to the north. So behind me is the south wind. Now, the only time this setup is a problem is when the north wind is blowing. It does put a lot of torque on that gate, and I do have some concerns that over time that north wind blowing on that gate, pushing it back this way, could put undue strain on the parts inside that opener and cause them to fail at some point. So another accessory I do plan to buy is a positive gate latch. So when that thing swings to that point, that latch will grab it and it closes and locks itself from the inside mechanism. Now this has got a little bit of play in it, so you can push it a little bit. That's about as far as you can push it. That's about a 1 foot span. There's my foot. That's a foot span. So you can push it a little bit, and sometimes I push it enough just to slip my big body through. And honestly, I mean, if you're worried about pedestrian traffic, I mean, if they want in this gate, they don't have to do that. They can just climb over the gate. It would take even my fat body like 2 seconds to hop over that gate. It's a 5 foot gate. Even as fat as I am, I could jump over that thing in no time. So I'm not worried about pedestrians getting in. Cars can't get in unless they drive through it, and they can drive through any gate. So honestly, the positive lock would just be for my peace of mind, knowing that I wasn't putting undue stress on that opening mechanism. but it's another expense and something I don't want to spend money on right at this moment. I've had it for a year in this configuration and I've not had any trouble with it, so I may just continue the way I'm going, who knows. So the keypad, I want to show you that. That's a neat little feature. It's a really neat accessory. This is the one we just put in a couple weeks ago. So it's got the Mighty Mule logo there. You can program that to have whatever code you want to use, of course, like a 4-digit code. You can assign temporary codes that will only work for so many hours. You can assign temporary codes that only work for so many opens. And you can assign guest access numbers. So you can have up to like 20 codes for each keypad. Now what I have done is I've got a code that I give to people that need to come to the house short term. And then I've got another code that only my group and close family have access to. So that way, if I need to reprogram and delete that temporary code out that I give to everybody, if I've gone 2 years and a whole bunch of people have it, I can wipe that code out and start again. Now the only drawback is because I've got 2 separate keypads, you've got 2 different programmings to do. But the process is the same for both, so you could do them both in about 5 minutes. It's not hard to program. The instruction book walks you through the process step by step. It's real easy to do. They run not on electricity but on AAA batteries. So this setup all comes together. This little hood, which kind of protects the keypad, but it's an all-weather keypad. It's got these little, I mean, these buttons are just rubber buttons. And you get the positive feedback. Each time you push a button, it gives you a beep. And then this pole, this is a powder-coated steel pole, and that's mounted down in the ground about 18 inches. And you can hear the keypad now, it's going out of standby mode after like 10 seconds. So that's concreted in, that's very sturdy. It's a really attractive setup, and that's why I went ahead and spent the extra money on the kit rather than just buying the keypad and putting my own pole in. The outside one is exactly identical, and it was put in right at the same time as we installed the opener. So it's a very nice setup. Another thing that I like about it is its reliability. I mean, it's not failed me so far. I mean, it's not had any problems, and granted it's not even a year old yet, but it hasn't failed. Another thing I like is the remote works all the way back to the other side of my house, which is about 150 feet from the opener. So I can punch that button way back there if I'm outside with the button. Now from the inside the car, it usually works from about 100 feet away, but that gives you plenty of time to be pointing down towards the gate, punch the button, and it's not a real fast open or close, but that 100 feet gives you time to drive down the driveway. About the time you get here, the gate's open, out of the way, you can drive through, go on about your business, and then the gate will close after 45 seconds or so. Now I'll go ahead and cycle through. I'll show you how quick it is. So here's the remote. So I'm going to show you a cycle. You can probably tell by looking that that gate is downhill from the post to this end closer to me. So now that's fully open, and you can actually increase the amount of resistance on that. I was going to say you can increase the travel, but you can't, because that arm is drawn all the way up inside the housing there. So that pulled it to open, which is the default setting. And now after about 45 seconds, this gate's going to go ahead and close on its own. I'm not going to touch anything, just going to let it be. That gives you plenty of time to get to where you're going. Even if you've got a trailer, or you're driving something slow through there, or you're walking and putting trash out in the basket, there it goes. So it's closing now on its own. I didn't touch the button. That's the default setting. You can change it, as I mentioned, to close at the push of a button or the keypad. So today, because that south wind's blowing pretty good, it's probably going to hit the brick when it goes. It did just a little bit, which is about perfect. You want it to, I like it to tap that brick just a little bit to know it's completely closed. So that was a full cycle. That was about a minute from start to finish. Now I'll show you real quick the keypad working. I'm not going to show you the code because I don't want you to know my code. I just punch in my 4-digit code, and that opens the gate the same as the button does. The outside keypad works exactly the same, and you could even program them with different codes if you wanted to. I can't imagine a benefit to that, but if you wanted to, they can work completely independently of one another. You could even have another keypad if you wanted mounted somewhere else. But it works the same way. It's going to open the gate, hold back for 45 seconds or so, and then close without having been told to close. Now, along the lines of the remote, there are 2 different options on the remote control. This is the single feature button. It's got one button that does one thing, and that's open the gate. There is another option, and I bought the 2-button option just because I thought it'd be a better remote. I had trouble with mine. After about 2 weeks it quit working. I had to take it back to Tractor Supply. In fact, I then bought a single function remote like this one, and after about a month it quit working and I had to take it back. Now this one I've had for several months and I've not had any problems with, but that's one thing I have had some trouble with, is the reliability of the remote control. So, you know, I don't know what that's worth, but it's not going to deter me. It's not really soured me on this at all, but it was just something that I did have to deal with. But the single feature button, single function button will just open the gate. The multi-function button, the dual button version, would allow you to not only program this gate, but if you had multiple gates, maybe in a pasture, or you had a gate and a garage door opener you wanted to program in with it, you could do that. But you know, most garage doors come with their own openers, and the newer cars these days have their own openers built into them anyway that you program. So I'm not sure about the ability to program this opener with a car with the built-in buttons. I've not ever looked into that because my car's not new enough to have its own buttons. But that might be something you research if you're interested in that feature. So again, to summarize, overall I really like this opener. I've not had any problems with it aside from a couple of the remotes, which to me wasn't a big deal. I like that you can accessorize. I like the looks of it. I like the functionality of it. So far, I like the reliability of it. But along the accessory lines, I don't like that you can get really expensive really quickly. I think it's a little misleading to say, oh, that gate opener is $200 or $300. But then all the accessories for it that you might want to use are also about $100 to $150 a pop. So for that, if you do some planning and figure out what parts you want and need for your setup, and you buy a kit that comes with all that, you can probably come out money ahead. But it still could get really costly, and I also don't like that some things are only available on the Tractor Supply website. I want to be able to go in and look at a store and see what I want and purchase those parts. But it's not a big deal. It's not a huge deal to me. It's just a little bit of a hindrance. But overall, I'm very happy with it. I like it. One of the things that attracted me to the Mighty Mule very early on was, number one, its prevalence in the market. I mean, it was evident by doing a search of gate openers that it was one of the top 2 or 3 brands in the country as far as gate openers. And its availability, it's very widely available, so that was another thing that attracted me to it. And the very limited information I could find on it had good reviews, and people were happy with it as far as installing it. Some people that even weren't very mechanically inclined said that it was pretty easy to put in, so that gave me a lot of hope. Overall, I'm very happy with it. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you were able to get some good information from that if you're in the market for a gate opener. I hope that the information I gave you will help you to make a good decision about buying that particular gate opener for your property, or one even similar to it along the same Mighty Mule line. So give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. If you would, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you want to comment, ask a question, or check in where you're watching from, drop that in the comment section right down below.